Mid-tiers in fighting games are known for, lo and behold, in the middle of the tier list. Most of the time they are viable characters that are a little behind the pack from everyone else, and a mid-tier in some games are actually still promising characters with a lot of things going for them. Some games it's actually possible for mid-tiers to win major tournaments. However, in Melee, it's different. Mid-tiers in Melee could be described as what would be a modern-day low tier, as the low tiers in Melee are even worse. This is because there's a stark difference between the characters that are unviable and viable in Melee. Some characters can struggle in the KO department and just can't close out stocks, or they have awful out-of-shield options in range. Whatever it may be, they end up being on the lower end of the tier list. This isn't me trying to give mid-tiers a bad rap. You can actually do work with them, but it's significantly harder to get results with these types of characters because the top tiers in Melee are so defined and also crazy good in a lot of different areas. In this video, the goal is to look at the mid tiers in Melee, and for most people that would be the B- to C- tiers. So we will be looking at characters in these tiers and giving a brief rundown on if it's possible for them to go higher on the tier list. We aren't going anywhere crazy, like wondering if these characters could win a super major, or if they're a secret S tier character or something. We're just doing a simple weather forecast on whether it's possible for them to increase their placement. It doesn't matter if it's by 1 spot or 5 spots. And at the end of the day, I'm just a guy, so your guess is as good as mine. Luigi is well known for many things. One of them is obviously because his wave dash. In fact, I love to compare Luigi's movement to the equivalent of, yes, I've said it before, a slip and slide. That's how good it is, because Luigi's traction is so low. This is why he has the best wave dash in the game. However, the low traction means Luigi is going to have a terrible time out of shield because he gets pushed away too far when his shield is pressured, meaning Luigi can't get easy follow-ups as maybe some of the other characters. He also has one of the worst shuffles in the game. However, he has a nair that comes out at frame 3, which means you can use this to escape out of combos really well. It's one of the strongest nairs in the game, and it's super annoying to deal with. He has a projectile. It might not be the best projectile in the game as it has a very short duration, but it is a projectile. His recovery is easy to exploit. The reason why I'm bringing up these stark differences is Luigi is a double-edged sword character. His strengths are also his weaknesses, and of course the other way around too. And maybe I'm a little biased as I'd personally love to see Luigi get pushed a little bit further, maybe go a couple spots higher, but as of right now, Luigi is still a niche character with a small but passionate player base. I personally feel Luigi could have potential to go a little bit higher. I'll be covering Doc and Mario in the same portion here. Even though Doc is slightly higher than Mario as of right now, these characters are very similar too. I personally have slightly more faith in Dr. Mario over Mario as they are very similar to each other, but some of their positives and negatives are slightly different. They both can combo with their grabs, most notably their up throw chain grab that works very well in the spacies. Both characters are extremely well-rounded, being a positive and negative for both characters. Being well-rounded is not a bad thing on paper, however, being a jack of all trades can sometimes mean you aren't defined enough in a lot of areas that you need, especially KO power. If you don't have good KO power in Melee, it's really hard for you to do well in the meta. It means you'll actually be able to close out stocks at higher percentages. This is why I personally think Doc has the higher chance to get out of the mid tier. Mario having less KO power means it's going to be a little bit harder for him to close out stocks as easily, which is significantly going to hurt him in some matchups. Mario does have the better recovery, but his recovery options are also easy to challenge, and it takes a while for his options to come out. I think Dr. Mario's forward air being the stronger KO tool also helps him close out stocks more consistently than Mario. If Dr. Mario was maybe a little more popular and not as outclassed by characters like Sheik, I could easily see Doc maybe going up a spot or two. Mario, I could see maybe being in the mid tier for a while, as he's kind of always been there since falling off, since the early days when he was actually considered a high tier, which is kind of a fun fact. And I'm happy to say this video is sponsored by FlexiSpot. I was actually using the same childhood desk for a very long time and needed an upgrade. FlexiSpot had me covered. You can customize your desk with your own preferred color and size of the desktop and desk frame. There's many options to choose from, and you can choose a desk that fits your wants and needs. There's a keypad system that allows you to maneuver how high the desk is, and this is perfect if you're working from home or decide to go from sitting down or standing up. The keypad system is really simple to use as it's activated by just pressing up and down buttons. The reasons to use the FlexiSpot desks over any other desk is the stability, the large amount of choices available on their website, and the ease of use when it comes to operating the desk. It's important for me to have a spacious work environment that also allows flexibility, and especially if you yourself don't like sitting in front of a desk all day and would rather stand up. Link down below if you want to check it out yourself. Thank you FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Ganondorf had really early success as a mid-tier because of his high amount of KO power and of course being a clone of Melee's Captain Falcon and being the best version of Ganon competitively to this day. This version of Ganon is known for hitting like a truck, and fun fact, a lot of his moveset must have been considered so strong it was actually nerfed in the PAL version of Melee. His wave dash and roll is longer than Captain Falcon's, his spot dodge is even faster too. His limbs are longer, and this means he takes up more space. This obviously has its own pluses and minuses, but it does improve his reach. He has a down throw that's a really strong combo throw for him. Some characters would kill for those things, so that's how good it is for Ganon. Ganondorf is really strong, but inversely he's offsetted by his lack of speed. His jump squat being frame 6, 2 frames slower than Captain Falcon's, really hurts his aerial approaches, and because his moveset has a lot of startup and end lag, this means he doesn't have consistent options with dealing with pressure. He's also a victim to projectile camping, and this is because of his larger character model and slow speed. If the opponent just wants to play super lame and just bait out approaches, punish the mistakes, it's really hard for Ganondorf to combat that. Just camp him and use your projectiles. This is partly why Ganon is notoriously having bad matchups against the Spaceys and Sheik. Not trying to rain on the Ganondorf train, as he's been a mid-tier pretty much ever since the competitive community started with Melee, but I personally don't see him getting out of the mid-tier anytime soon for that reason. Out of all the mid-tiers in Melee, I think it's pretty obvious that this character has the most potential to go higher on Melee's tier list. First off, there's been plenty of Melee DK players that have been pushing the character to lengths I don't even think anyone could have imagined this character could truly go. That's one of the #1 ways to increase a character's viability, is having a player base to back it up. Not only that, but Donkey Kong doesn't lack what a lot of mid-tiers might lack. He has incredible KO power. Grab confirms, combos out of cargo, his aerials aren't bad at all. He has incredible KO tool being his giant punch, which he can combo fast fallers like they're a hacky sack into this move. I love seeing it. Sure, Donkey Kong is a big target and he's going to be easy to combo and camp with projectile spam. His recovery is exploitable, but outside of these flaws, the character is doing work right now in the current meta, so shout out to all the DK mains. I made a whole video on Donkey Kong's rise in Melee, so I don't want to repeat myself too hard, but I just know it's looking good for Donkey Kong right now. And I think out of all the mid-tiers, he has the most potential to go up a couple spots higher on Melee's cutthroat tier list. Since these two characters are literally right next to each other and they happen to be clones, I'll talk about them both. Link is obviously the slower but stronger character, while young Link being the inverse, a speedier but weaker version of his adult counterpart. Despite being clones of each other, these two characters are completely different matchup spread-wise, and their strengths and weaknesses heavily affect them. Link is heavier and slower, so this leads to him having a difficulty escaping combos and pressure, having some of the worst out of shield options in the game. While young Link is smaller but faster, and this leads to him being able to bob and weave in neutral and camp with his projectiles more effectively. However, I think young Link isn't a bad character. His projectile game is more defined for camping because he has a smaller character model and his moves have less end lag. Young Link isn't terrible, but he's sort of outclassed a little bit by Link's stronger power. In the past, people would have preferred young Link because he had the larger presence in the meta, especially as the niche Jigglypuff counterpick. But when it comes to facing the higher tiered characters outside of Jigglypuff, he definitely has trouble, especially if they aren't floaty. And Link has been known to be looking better than ever recently because Link has been played by a handful of top level players, and it's almost as if despite all the flaws Link has, the extra amount of KO power definitely comes in handy for him, as it feels like young Link is really going to have to fight to close out every stock. In my opinion, young Link probably is going to stay where he's at. Maybe Link could go up a couple spots. If he continues this positive direction, I could really see that happen. Game & Watch is probably one of the strangest characters in all of Melee. Some people would call him a victim of Melee's crunch, whether it was intentionally or not. He shares the same walk, fall speed, fast fall speed, traction, gravity as Mario. Plenty of his moves are buggy, and of course his shield not covering his whole body, which he shares with Donkey Kong. Despite being a quirky character, he's the second lightest character in the game, susceptible to being comboed because of his lack of defensive options. His grab range isn't that great, his aerials have a lot of end lag. He actually has some decent combo options out of his grab confirms. This is like a bread and butter for the character, as his throw combos are good. And his aerials complement these throws very well, most notably his fair and nair. So yes, they are flawed, but they can be used for this reason. His forward tilt and forward smash have similar properties to sex kicks. Basically means the hitboxes on these moves last for a long time. In my opinion, I think Game & Watch has some nice options that make him stand out from the pack. I'm not 100% on him going anywhere tier list wise because his player base is rather small, and the flaws of him being a lightweight is actually really bad to have. And if he was actually buffed, if there was a magical balance patch to Melee, he might actually be a threat if he was buffed. But as of right now, I don't think he would go anywhere because he's got a lot of flaws. Sorry, Game & Watch. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want content early, there's always content early available on Patreon and for channel members, so run that up if you guys like the content. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. Peace out.